Hello. Welcome back to Piece of Work, the podcast. I'm Danielle Tantone. I'm your host, and I'm also a nurse, an author, a coach, a Medicare agent, a mom, who knows that? What else? And it has been 2 years since I've recorded an episode of my podcast. There are lots of reasons why it's been 2 years since I've recorded, and there are lots of reasons why I wanted to come back and do it a little bit more. And we'll get into that. First of all, if you're watching the video of this, you may notice that I'm in a different surroundings. I'm in my own home office. It's messy, just like me, and you can't see all of the mess because it's kind of out of the screen, but it's colorful and it's a mishmash of different things, just like me. And it's just real. I didn't put a filter or a background, an AI background. I didn't even put lipstick on. I mean, I probably should have, but I didn't. And I'm just excited to be back. It's a big win just to have hit record. Now, I'll mention that this is probably the fourth or fifth time that I hit record, but this is the one that I'm just going to go with. Even if I mess up, even if I stumble over my words, even if I go off on a tangent, I'm not stopping or starting again. This is it. So, it's been almost 2 years since I recorded an episode. I am looking at some notes on my second screen up here if you see me looking up. But today I hit record. Um, it's this is a relaunch, but it's also a commitment, a recommitment to using my own voice. And this space, this podcast, and all my social media really has always been about telling the truth in the middle of a story. And I'm still in the middle, very much in the middle. These last 2 years, take a sip of water, have been really trying in a lot of ways and really fun and really exciting and just full of a bunch of stuff. And I purposely put the podcast on the back shelf because, you know, I'm only one person and I can only do so many things. And, you can only fit so much on the plate. And my plate was very full. Um, and I just wanted to be sure that my time was spent intentionally and that I was doing the things that were meaningful and doing the work that was meaningful and making the most impact that I could. And I just needed to kind of rethink what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And I wish I could say that I have perfect clarity now and that I have spent the last 2 years making millions of dollars and helping millions of people. That's not quite the case. But I have accomplished some things and I have gained some clarity and I've just been living life too. And that's important. I'm a mom, I'm a nurse, I'm an author, I'm a coach, and I've been navigating a lot of hard things, divorce, turning 50 and going through menopause and trying to stay in shape and dating and addiction, not necessarily myself, but with a couple of different loved ones and mental health stuff, myself and others, and just all the things, grief and loss and relationships and family and being a mom and parenting teenagers and it's a mess and it can be a lot and I don't have all the answers. So at times it's like who am I to share? Who am I to help anyone? I'm a wreck myself. But that is the point, frankly. The My first book, that's so far the only book that I've published, even though I have several others in the works, is called Piece of Work, a Memoir. We're all a piece of work, a work in progress, and a work of art. And when I came up with that phrase, I was really so proud of myself, for lack of a better word, because I love like the play on words. I love the word work that is used in three different ways in that phrase and that this book is a piece of my work, a piece of my life, a story about a girl who's a real piece of work. That's part of from my intro. So I love how we say, piece of work is a really kind of negative phrase, like, oh, she's a real piece of work. And, you could look at my life and say that, and it would be very much true. And, but I'm also a work in progress. And so I love that the word work means like the work that we do. It's like active work. You're working hard. It's also a thing, like a work of art is a object. And then a work in progress. I think we're all always a work in progress. And um, life is a work in progress. Life is all about the journey. So I really love that subtitle because it's the subtitle of my life. And so it means a lot to me still. Now, the things that I'm working on are going to be a little bit more other focused. I'm working on a book about resilience. And I'm working full time as an OB nurse. I'm doing postpartum mostly now, and I'm teaching childbirth classes at the hospital, and I love that. I'm actually dressed to do that in a little while here. And doing some life coaching. I'm working on a certification, and I'm working on some online group programs in the coming year. And I'm just really excited about so many things. Today it is December 11th, and so I just finished the Medicare annual enrollment period because I do still have this Medicare business that where I help seniors who are navigating insurance. So I have this, medical insurance knowledge, and then I really want to help people with more of the life coaching aspect, though, specifically resilience. So anyway, I this is going to be, as you can already tell from the way I'm rambling, pretty unstructured. I just honestly I was talking to my own coach today, and she said, what she asked what she could most help with. And I said, I've been navigating some really difficult things with my kids and with romantic relationships and with, all the things that I mentioned already. But I feel like I have a really good handle of that. Physically, I feel really healthy. I'm managing all the hormones and all the shifts that come with menopause. I'm in pretty good shape. I exercise and I eat regular, and I actually feel really good physically. I'm getting facials for my skin. I haven't quite gone into Botox or anything like that yet, and I don't know if I will, but I feel good. I'm 51. Like what what do I expect? But so far I feel pretty good. Um, the thing that I really want to do better in 2026 is to have the impact and the income that I really have been working toward. And I've been, juggling a lot of things, but not really getting moving forward. And I really want to do that. And even though I took away the podcast 2 years ago because I felt like there was just too much and I needed space and it was like one more to do item. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and I really believe that podcasting is a unique way to reach people in a very intimate way and speak in long form and share your voice. And I think that even though I'm just a girl in the world, I do have some valuable things to share and to say on a regular basis. And so it's almost like a commitment to myself to do this. So somehow I committed to my coach that I would record a podcast episode tomorrow. No more messing around, no more excuses, no more reasons. I mean, they're not really excuses. There's legit reasons. I've been dealing with some really big stuff. But I decided that it's time and I've taken a break and I'm ready to do this and I'm going to do it messy because I'm not in the studio anymore. I'm in my own messy home office. I happened to pull out this microphone that I bought 2 years ago and never used. I have some headphones too, but I decided if I don't need them, I'd rather not mess up my beautiful hairdo. And they're just not comfortable and I don't think I need them. So here I am. Anyway, I'm glancing up here to see because I did write some notes about what I wanted to talk about, and I want to see if I can kind of follow my outline a little bit so I'm not completely off on a tangent. Told you it's been 2 years. Today I hit record. It's a relaunch, but also a recommitment to using my own voice. This space has always been about telling the truth in the middle of a story, and I'm still very much in the middle. Um, we've been dealing with some really tough things in my family. Nothing that I'm willing or able to go into right now, but because of that, because of the fact that a lot of the things I've been dealing with are not my own. I'm an open book. I wrote a memoir about some very personal stuff that I've dealt with myself. But since the things that have been going on in my world are not immediately me, it's more like family members. It's been it's been challenging because I'm normally someone who likes to share everything, and these are not the kinds of things that are mine to share. And so that's been hard. Um, and because of that, I've been actually more quiet on social media, on mostly just social media, and then of course the podcast. Even 2 years ago, when I was first going through my divorce and starting to date, um, and I met somebody 2 years ago, actually 2 years ago tomorrow, and it's been a little bit off and on over the last 2 years, but we're still together, and um, you know, he's a private person, not somebody who wants his life out on the out in the world. And so that's really hard to date someone who, I mean, it was hard for my ex and his family too. Not as much for Mike, but he's been on this podcast and he's also kind of an open book, but more the extended family, like, or even my direct family, always feels like I share too much and I post too much. And it's hard because it's like when you're a memoirist, when you're a writer, my life is the content. So it's been something unique to navigate, as the things that I'm dealing with are not mine to share. They're not, and so it's been an interesting thing to try to share. That's all I'll say on that. I know I kind of going back, but so anyway, that's a lot of why I pulled back. Um, and just sometimes when people are silent, um, it's not because nothing's going on, it's because everything's going on. And many times I've actually wanted to post something like that, like, hey, that friend who's like the super resilient one, who's always got it all figured out, and who, you can always count on, the really strong one, the one who's just got it all together, is always handling life brilliantly. You might want to check on that friend because she may need a friend. She may not have it all together. And that's frankly how I've been feeling the last several months, especially. As as much as I'm managing these things in a healthy way and I'm okay and I'm, surviving, I still need friends and I still need supports, and I still, I hired my own coach even though I am a coach. So that's a good, I think, reminder, just to, if somebody who's normally very outspoken and sharing a lot suddenly isn't, you may want to check on them. Maybe they're going through some stuff. So yeah, I've been going through some stuff. Anyway, I kind of used to think that I had to wait until I had it all figured out to share. Um, and in some cases, I think that people appreciate when you do, rather than just, blabbing about your problems and complaining about things. But life is happening now and healing is happening now. And I'm kind of I've always been a part of being outgoing and extroverted is that I literally process things through speaking. So this podcast and any medium where I have the opportunity to talk out loud is literally how I learn and how I teach at the same time. Whereas other people who are more introverted need to process things fully before they can ever speak about it. So very much as I'm speaking, I'm learning. And so I just decided that I don't need to wait till I have it all figured out. I don't need to wait till I have a studio in place and this perfect platform and, a big audience of people. Whoever happens to hear this podcast today, it's for them. And maybe they'll learn something. Maybe they'll, get some clarity on their own life. Maybe they'll get permission to do something of their own that's messy and not quite perfect. Um, that I think is the biggest thing I can share is just it doesn't have to be perfect. You start where you are and you do the best you can right now. You can't go back. You can only go forward, and you can't be anywhere else but right where you are. So that's where I'm at. All right, let's see. Oh, that was another point I wrote down. We wait for clarity. We always want to have clarity and we want to like get everything figured out. We want to like think it through and have all the steps written out. But clarity often comes after action. So sometimes you just have to take the first few steps toward where you think you want to go to realize, oh, that's actually not where I want to go. Or, yes, this is where I want to go. So sometimes waiting till you have it all figured out to take action doesn't really work. And I've always known that. That's me. I've always been a person of action, but I think even for someone like me, it you can get paralyzed by just all the options and all the thoughts and just overthinking everything. So the first step is usually the scariest, but it's also the most powerful. Like hitting record, actually recording a new podcast after 2 years of a break seemed an insurmountable step. There were 15 things that had to happen before I could do it. But once I made the commitment to do it, and this is like an example, that I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm trying to use this podcast as like a very meta example of just how we all could use this in our own life. Like it would have been very easy to say, there is no way I have time to record a podcast tomorrow. I haven't even finished decorating for Christmas and it's December 11th. I haven't bought a single Christmas present. It's December 11th. My sister had surgery and my mom had surgery and I have a million things on my to-do list and I have to follow up with the insurance and I have to like there's any number of things that I should and could be doing right now. And yet I felt it was important to me to do this podcast and I had to kind of put those all aside. I had to put aside the fact that I don't have any kind of fancy software or a great studio. I remembered that I had this microphone and I told myself, if I can't figure it out in 5 minutes, I took it out of the box. The box is right here on the floor. I told myself if I can't figure out in 5 minutes, I'm just going to record it on Zoom without even a good microphone. The sound will probably be crappy, but that's okay. And I figured it out, thankfully, hopefully. I mean, hopefully I'm not just talking to no one and there is actually going to be a recording here. That would be hilarious. Not if it didn't work. Anyway, the first step is usually the scariest, but also the most powerful. Done is better than perfect. It's cliche for a reason. I mean, it's true. Um, I thought about starting back, but I didn't want to. I up until now, I didn't want to just start back until I had a vision for what I wanted to do with the podcast. I didn't want it to just be a mishmash of different things. I wanted it to have a purpose and a kind of like a structure to it. Because all of my previous podcast episodes, they were around themes around the book, around my memoir, but they weren't really, there wasn't a clear theme. And I kept thinking, well, maybe I need to be more specific, more niche, and we'll talk about one specific thing. Maybe it should be just about breast cancer. Maybe it should be just about Medicare. Maybe it should be just about nursing. And I kind of went back and forth. I even thought, well, maybe I'll talk about dating after 50 or dating without nipples. I was one of the episodes I talked about, being a breast cancer survivor, being, you know, I wanted to talk about maybe just relationships and, going through divorce. I almost created an entire platform for divorced women. And then every time I kind of went toward a very focused niche like that, I realized that that's not my niche. my niche and my specialty is the messy middle, all of the things combined, and creating a life and rising resilient from that mess, from the diagnosis, from the divorce, from the job changes, living life, moving forward, finding joy, even when all these things are happening, because they're gonna happen. And so I didn't want to niche down so much that I was only talking about women surviving breast cancer or women going through a divorce. Because frankly, the most surprising audience for my book even has been men. Like it's really spoken to a lot of men. And like, not everyone there's other things that we struggle with that can be surprisingly hard besides breast cancer. I mean, even like I said, divorce is a big one. Jobs don't work out. Family relationships and parenting. I mean, parenting teenagers has been probably the hardest thing of my life. And even friendships have been so challenging. Sometimes just life doesn't go how you imagine it going. So I I don't really know the point I was trying to make, but I think I waited a long time to record because I was trying to figure out, well, who wants to listen to this podcast? Who am I even speaking to? And I realized that I'm speaking to people in the messy middle, people who want to rise better. So someone who, beyond therapy and the hard work and the really specific work. If you navigated breast cancer, for instance, you've already gone through the treatment. It's not like I don't need to be a nurse navigator where I'm helping you navigate the system. I want to be someone who helps you rise better. I know I keep using the same words, but I want to help you take your own brave first steps today. Um, so action, it's all about action, taking some action. Action is activation. Momentum is built in motion. And you don't need a whole plan, just one small decision to move forward. So I'm kind of showing you I'm I'm doing it messy just so you can see, hey, if she can talk for however long she's been talking about nothing and everything, then I can do whatever the thing is that you want to do. So I am working on a book on resilience. It's had a couple different pivots over the whole year, really. I've been working on it, but I did start writing it around a framework that I created called the 5R method. It's a simple but powerful framework for building real life resilience. And it's kind of like a double thing. Like on one hand, it can be just a 5-minute reset, and then on the other hand, it can be like a framework for life over long term. So the 5 R's are refresh, renew, relate, release, react. And actually react, I might be changing up. So refresh is just that pause, that breath, that reconnect. I like to think of it as like refreshing a computer screen, like refreshing a website. When it's moving slow, it's not going, you hit refresh and it comes back. It takes a little break. And we can do that with our breath, with just taking a quick breath. We can do that with a nap, anything that kind of restarts us, just like you restart your computer. You know how they say your phone's not working, it's like everything's going haywire. They say you call the tech and the first thing they say is, "Well, did you restart it?" So that's refresh. Renew is shifting your mindset, choosing new thoughts, renewing your mind. Um, Relate is finding connection, support, and truth tellers, sharing your story with others, talking to others, um, connecting with others. Release is letting go of what no longer serves. And react is taking aligned action from a grounded place. Um, so even this podcast episode is part of the react phase for me. But I'm thinking about, hold on, I wrote some. like instead of the thing I don't like about react is it's kind of like it can be a negative. Like we don't want to react. Like if someone I'm a very reactive person emotionally, for example, like I'll yell or I'll when we're arguing, I'll react. And so react kind of has a little bit of a negative twinge to me. So I want to tweak that language to better match what I'm really trying to share. And so I thought, well, what about respond instead? That has a more therapeutic, a correct response rather than a reaction. So it's like intentional action that honors your healing and next steps. It's like a little gentler and more intuitive, less reactive, more conscious. And then, or even restart. Give yourself permission to restart again, to begin again, no matter how long it's been. So just like I'm doing with this podcast, relaunch or reactivate. So I like reactivate because it's like reclaiming your energy, your voice, your mission, stepping back in with power. I'd be curious what you think if you like if you were going to put your input into the 5R formula, the 5R method, sorry. It's all a work in progress. Um, which word do you think makes the most sense with what I'm trying to share? If what I'm trying to communicate even makes sense to you. So anyway, I thought that that would be a good thing to discuss kind of in real time as I'm still, evolving the framework and still working on the book. Let's see. So yeah, I just wrote down that that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm reactivating my voice, my message, this podcast. It's not about rushing forward, it's about re-engaging with the world in a way that feels aligned, and that's resilience. So that's my 5R method. I use it even in a moment. Like let's say you get some bad news or somebody's trying to fight with you, you're just in a moment where you're feeling flooded. You can use that 5R method, especially the first one. That take a breath. So refresh. I always think of the computer. Just refresh your screen, turn it off, turn it back on, and then the other steps kind of follow. This all started when a couple of years ago, right around the same time as I was recording the last episodes of my podcast. I had some things happening at work, and just there was a lot happening in my life, but also just some things happening at work. And I was working night shift as a labor and delivery nurse. And one of my coworkers was working with me one night, and she kind of watched me like get some bad news and then kind of like process it and talk it through, and then, kind of pretty quickly come to okay. And she was like, wow, how do you do that? Like, you're like the most resilient person I've ever met, I think. And I was like, I don't know, I just do. And I started thinking about it like it's interesting. Like how am I? What do I do? How am I? Am I really that resilient? Like I didn't is that unusual? Like how if I was going to teach other people how to be resilient, how would I do that? And so I started thinking about it, and that's where I started creating that formula. I started realizing, okay, well, the first thing I do is that refresh. Then I, kind of take these other steps, and then I take aligned action or aligned reaction. So that's where it originated. It was basically me looking into my own process and trying to break down what I do naturally into some steps that could actually help other people. So that's what I'm kind of trying to do with the book. All right. So that is, like I said, where I'm at. Um, I do have to get to work to teach this childbirthing class pretty soon, but I just wanted to kind of wrap this up. I think the act of recording this episode is a metaphor that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be true. And we wait for clarity, but clarity comes often after action. And the first step's usually the scariest. I already said that. Done is better than perfect. You might be avoiding something in your own life, and maybe you should just take that one brave step instead of waiting for everything to be perfect. So yeah, like I said, I'm coming in 2026. I'm working on doing some more with my coaching. I'm writing a book called Resilient. I'm creating a coaching program or course kind of earlier in the year. And I really want to create a community. I want to create what I wish I had have a community so that we don't feel so alone, so that we're kind of supporting each other in navigating difficult stuff. Um, so I'm kind of rebuilding my business around helping people rise in the middle of messy seasons, building a safe space for people to grow without pressure to be perfect. If you've ever felt like you're too much and not enough at the same time, this is for you. I want to help people build resilience that isn't just mental, but emotional, spiritual, relational, and even physical too, because I really think that resilience, which is basically the same as flexibility, the ability to bend and the ability to stand back up is and bounce back up, jumping. Like if I think about like if, in physical fitness, jumping, stretching, those are all so important to our overall health. And so I think that it's the same with, mental and emotional resilience. So that's about all I have to say at this moment. I hope you got something out of that rambling. Thank you for listening. And if you found any value in this, please share it or DM me with your thoughts. And please review, please listen, please share, please help me spread the word about this podcast. Because listening back to my previous episodes, I've interviewed so many great people, and I felt like there's a spark of something in each episode. Not just because I think I have a spark to offer, but just because I feel like the subjects that I've explored with the people that have been on this podcast are really important, and not just to me, but to others. So if you want to listen back through and share any episodes with anybody that are interesting, if you want to read my book, Piece of Work, a memoir, we're all a piece of work, a work in progress, and a work of art. It's available on Amazon in all formats. I've got a soft cover, I've got ebook. There's even an audiobook read by yours truly. And there is a lot more to come. You can find out what's going on and what's new with me at my website, danielletantone.com. I'm also on all of the social medias at Danielle Tantone. So it's Danielle, T as in Tom, A, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, O, N as in Nancy, E. So like I have a TikTok, I have a YouTube page, I have an Instagram. I haven't been super consistent with those, but I'm going to start. So if you want to know what I'm up to, you can check me out on any of those. And if you're craving deeper support in your own resilience journey, I'll be sharing more soon about my book, Resilient, and the brand new coaching program that I'm building for people navigating the messy middle of life. It's still unfolding, but if you want to be the first to know, head to my website, send me a message on Instagram. I'd love to walk with you. And I am still doing individual coaching too. So if you want a life coach who's heart centered and just really in tune with like kind of pulling out whatever you naturally want to pull out, I would love to work with you. So that is it. Thank you for listening. We're all a piece of work, but we're also a work in progress. And this is the work that matters. Thank you. Goodbye.